the newest episode of Just for Sport. Jumoke Davis here, live on the Props Network channels, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Thank you very much for anybody who is also listening to this as a podcast. We really appreciate. And if you're listening on iTunes, please share and leave a review. We really appreciate it. Of course, you can get this on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, multiple places. So wherever you can, share, leave a review. We got another great episode for you today for your viewing and betting pleasure, of course. How am I doing? Well, I didn't win Powerball. I'd probably still be doing the show if I did win Powerball. No doubt about that. But Mega Millions is still in my sights, As you know, I've been doing my daily picks every day to see, just another way to keep things fresh, try something new, see how good I am at making picks. I'm not doing too bad. 12-8. 12-8 over the first 20 days of 2021. A winning record is always a good thing. Can't believe I lost yesterday, which I'll get into later, about my dilemma of trying to figure out what the deal is with the home court advantage for teams in the NBA, not having fans, what that plays into it, the trends from the previous seasons that I have observed or, did my research on to see if I'm on the right track with it or not. There's a new European Super Soccer League that UEFA is trying to get started. A couple of teams are looking at, and FIFA's like, we can't let that happen. And I've got my thoughts on that. But first, we're going to start with the National Football League. Two great games on Sunday, and already I missed the Saturday-Sunday games. I mean, as the season is winding down, you start to get a little more bummed out when you realize, oh man, that means less and less and less games up until the Super Bowl, which is, the game everybody is watching and got their eyes glued to for, if not the game, then the commercials and what's, the pomp and circumstance around halftime or whatever. But we got two games on Sunday. The Buccaneers against the Packers at the Packers. That game is at 3:05. The line started at -4, and now you can get it at 3.5. -3.5 for the Packers on DraftKings, -3 on FanDuel, and BetRivers and Unibet are also -3.5. And then following that game at 6:40 is the expected kickoff time. Bills at Chiefs. That line started out at -1, favoring the Chiefs. That's now gone to -3 across the board. DraftKings, FanDuel, BetRivers, and Unibet. And as I look at both games and I look at the betting and, the trends of where the money is being bet, the stats that are also a factor in this, the actual stats, we're going to start with the betting. So far, as of today, literally got this email. This is from DraftKings. The Packers are getting 71% of the handle. 72% of the bets are for the Packers. The over-under, you've got 70%, 76% of the handle, 75% of the bets going with the over at 51. Money line at +50 for the Bucs. 40% of the handle is going towards the Bucs. 44% of the bets are going towards the Bucs. -75 at 60% of the handle is going to the Packers. And of course, at 44% of the bets are going to the Bucs, and 56% is going to the Packers. So most people, you would say, okay, they're going with the Packers. They're going with the over. And again, on the money line, at the Packers at -175. But the thing for me when I look at that, you also have to recognize, right? You have to recognize that going into the game between the Bucs and the Saints, we know where the money was going, right? The money, of course, was favoring the Saints. And I mostly bring that up as a way to say that can you count out Tom Brady? As much as you want to say, well, it's easy to do it because it's Aaron Rodgers too, I get that. I do get that. But at the same time, if you want to tell me that Drew Brees isn't at the same level as Aaron Rodgers, I'd almost say you got to be crazy, right? You almost have to be. As we stand here on the 21st, it's the 21st day of the 21st century, 21st year, which is bizarre. 21, 21, 21, 21, 21, 21. So for anybody who's in the math, there you go. You got a lot to work with there. But that's where my head goes to when I think about where we are with deciding, or rather where I am in trying to make my informed decision of who I would bet on. Because in the end, you don't want to count out Tom Brady, right? You just don't. I really don't know how you could. Why would you? And in my mind, looking at the Saints and Bucs, I would be curious if we would be. I'm surprised that number isn't more even and what that has to do with. Because in my mind, as I talked about it on Monday's show, it's in many ways more about the cold weather. That's what would concern me more than saying it's that Rodgers is better than Brady, at least in this situation. You got the seventh ranked offense in the Bucs versus the fifth ranked offense in the Packers, the sixth ranked defense versus the ninth ranked defense. The main weakness for either team is rushing for the Bucs. They're ranked 28th. That's not good. And as on the chat, it was pointed out to me, which, by the way, you're welcome to join the chat if you would like to. We'll talk about what you want to talk about on the chat. But the Bucs beat the Packers 38-10 earlier in the season. I would love to say that doesn't have anything to do with it, because I don't necessarily think it does, in the sense that this is the playoffs, so it's different. But at the same time, even in the playoffs, that was a regular season. I would say that this is different. They're playing in Green Bay in cold weather. And although Tom Brady, at least, maybe some other players did on the team. Obviously, Antonio Brown played in cold weather. Gronk played in cold weather. But, that's been a stigma that's been with any warm weather team going into a playoff game against a cold weather team. But there are some trends to think about. One trend: teams that defeat a team by 20 plus points in a regular season and then face them in a conference championship are 13-3 in rematches, 4-0 in the last 10 seasons. So when you see everyone leaning towards the Packers, there's one ding right there. And I would say, well, I don't know. NFL.com analysts are saying that the Packers have a 56% chance of winning with a predicted score of 28-24. The more I'm talking, I feel like I'm leaning more towards the Packers. I'm not there yet. This is the first time that Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers will be meeting in the playoffs. So that's something there. What is that dynamic going to be like? I imagine for even the best athlete, you get up for these games, but maybe you get up too much. You could be nervous, going up against Tom Brady. That's a possibility. That's definitely a possibility. Because if I look at last week's game, the Packers played well against the Rams, but the Rams, in my mind, were not they just weren't a very strong team. Come on. How many times did anyone look at across the field and you look at Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff and you say, yeah, this is an even matchup? I didn't. I just didn't see it. And if you look at New England, they have somehow, if you think about all of the times that they have played in the Super Bowl, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers have never played each other. And that's something to think about. Tom Brady's 6-0 with 16 touchdowns and one interception since the Bucs Week 13 bye. And Aaron Rodgers is 1-3 with 6 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 4 career NFC Championship games all in a row. So he's playing at home. That is another first to think about. It's just something to think about. And after all, that's what we're doing here, right? You're trying to make an informed decision on what team to pick. Green Bay, 14-3 straight up, 11-6 against the spread. They've won 15 of their last 16 meetings at Lambeau Field. And the Bucs are 13-5, 10-8 against the spread. And the crazy thing is, Tampa Bay has done better on the road than at home. The defense came up big against arguably the most powerful or best offense in the NFC. So from that perspective, if you look at the fact that they forced 4 turnovers by Drew Brees, and they weren't all his fault, I don't know. I think that line and the percentage of handling bets are going leaning a little bit more towards the Packers than I thought it would. I look at that line there, that 3.5, and I think it's going to be a closer game. I'd say it comes down to a field goal. And of course, that's why the line's at 3.5 in some places. Maybe need to jump on FanDuel and get that 3.5. is coming up short if it comes down to a field goal to win it. But that's what I think in that game. Second game, we've got Bills at Chiefs. Chiefs are favored at -3. They're getting 62% of the handle, 51% of the bets. The over-under at 54. It's even 50-50 on the percentage of handle, 47% with the over, 53% is a percentage of bets taking the under. At +38, the Bills are getting 64% of the handle, 68% of the bets, -157, 36, and 32% respectively. I think that this game is harder to make a determination on because you don't know what's going to happen with Patrick Mahomes. Buffalo is 15-3, 12-6 against the spread. The Chiefs have not done well against the spread. They're 6-10-1 and 15-2 on the season. If I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen in this game, you've got the number 2 offense against the number 1 offense, Bills and Chiefs respectively, 14th and 16th ranked defense respectively, Bills and Chiefs. Everything is even the passing game. The Bills rank 3rd, Chiefs rank 1. Rushing, Bills rank 20th, rushing for the Chiefs rank 16th. Their last meeting was in October. The Chiefs won 26-17. But I think, as you may also say, as this game's in Kansas City, that was a different game. And if Mahomes is not 100%, then that will definitely be a different game. The Bills have won 8 straight games, including this playoff victory, tied for the second longest streak in franchise history. You remember earlier in the season, people started to talk about Jim Kelly. This was that kind of a Bills season when they referred back to those Bills teams that went to 4 straight Super Bowls. And Josh Allen is looking like a legitimate quarterback. The Chiefs' last 8 wins have been by 6 points or fewer, including this playoff victory over the Browns. So as I mentioned, they're not doing well against the spread, but at the same time, at -3, I actually think that this game will not be that close. If Mahomes plays, I see them getting a 6-point win. That's my gut talking. If he doesn't play and it ends up being Chad Henne, I see the Bills winning by 4, like a score 24-20, something like that. I know that, talking about the over-under, at 54, I said 24-20, that's 44. 53% of the bets are going with the under at 54. The Chiefs have scored 22 points or fewer in 3 straight games. Their offense is not what it was earlier, or maybe even you want to say last season. The Bills are 4-2 in franchise history in the AFC and AFL championship games, if you want to count those. They've won 4 straight when they've gotten to this point. Since 2017, the Bills have allowed 18 points per game versus the Chiefs, the fewest by any team to play 2+ games versus KC in that span. Obviously, Alex Smith was for part of that. This is the third straight AFC Championship game that the Chiefs will be hosting, which is NFL history. And these offenses with Stephon Diggs on the Bills, he's just amazing. He's just amazing. You have Tyreek Hill on the other side. You've got Travis Kelce on the other side. It's going to be quite a game, but I expect that I feel that the game between the Packers and the Bucs will be closer than the game between the Bills and the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes had a limited practice, so he still hasn't had a full practice yet. That will be interesting to see what happens there. No, the Bills didn't score a lot of points against Baltimore at home, which is, something to think about as well. I thought that Chad Henne made some good throws at the end of the game, but there's one thing when you have a small sample size to pick from. You only have what, three series that he was under center. I loved how he ran for that first down. That was tough. I think it will help Henne if who's been a bright rookie in Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back in the running back position. Sammy Watkins comes back. They're both listed as questionable, but if they can come back, I think that helps the Chiefs. But the status of Mahomes, everything rests on the status of Mahomes. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there. It really will. We shall see. We shall see. So, as you know, we're here on the Props Network, and we really appreciate you watching here on the Props Network. It means a lot to us. We're growing. We're, building. We're building. And I would take this time again to thank you all who have been watching on the live stream. For those that have been subscribing to not just for sport, but subscribing to the Props Network channel and watching our other offerings in the Walk On with Joe Walkowski, NBA Pick and Props with Dexter Henry and the guys. There's a lot that we at the Props Network offer as far as NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, betting news, analysis, and picks. We got a lot for you. And I hope that you can continue to support, share our content, leave a review when you feel so inclined and have an opportunity to. We appreciate that as well. We do. And thank you for supporting us so far. All right, we're going to switch to the NBA. And the thing for me is I'm trying to figure out what's a home court advantage. I made my pick last night, and I thought it was a really good one. I really did. It was Heat at Raptors. The Raptors have won 4 straight. They were, if I remember correctly, this was the first or second game in a 5-game homestand, and they were favored at -3. Miami ended up winning that game 111-102. And that got me to thinking about home records. And in this era, and the same thing could be said for multiple sports, right? We've got NFL, we had MLB, which had limited fans. NHL, NFL did have some fans. Actually, there will be some in Kansas City and at Lambeau Field. So there is somewhat of a home field advantage there. But in the NBA, when I looked back at the records, and we are talking about the home road standings and the records. This season so far, there are only 3 teams, especially we're looking at the top teams, that have a winning record on the home, at home, and on the road. 3 teams. The Boston Celtics are one. The Los Angeles Clippers are the other. 4 teams, excuse me. The Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns. Those are the 4 teams. Maybe that doesn't mean anything. Maybe it doesn't. The teams that did make it, the Lakers are 4-4 at home, 7-0 on the road. 7-0 on the road. The Philadelphia 76ers are 8-1 at home, but 2-4 on the road. The Bucs 6-1 at home, but 3-4 on the road. The Brooklyn Nets 7-4 at home, 2-3 on the road, including what I thought was I didn't expect them to lose last night. I didn't. I really didn't. There were 11 teams with a winning record on the at home and on the road. Why do I keep doing that? In 2019 and 2020, 9 teams in 2018 and 2019, and 10 teams in 2017, 2018. Now, obviously, there are a couple of teams that are a game over 500 or right at 500 or below 500. But I am curious if that is something that is a thing. If you're looking at tonight's games, you've got on the slate right now, you've got the Lakers at the Bucs. That's at -1 for the Bucs. 73% of the handle is going towards the Lakers. 72% of the bets are going towards the Lakers. The over-under, we have more on the over side at 59% and 58% respectively on the handle and bets. And 80 and 72% of the handle and bets are going for the money line on the Lakers at -106. You got the Pelicans at the Jazz and the Knicks at the Warriors. And again, I go back to those standings. And I say, well, is there really a home court advantage? And I don't know if you get a better matchup than you do tonight. You've got the Bucs at 6-1 at home, and the Lakers at 7-0 on the road. What could possibly be happening here? A lot of the action is leaning towards the Lakers to go 8-0 on the road, and I am inclined to think so as well. In my mind, when I look back at the fact that there aren't that many teams that have a home and road winning record, if we just count it down the line, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams that have a winning record at home. 1, 2, 3, 4 teams with a losing record at home, and then the rest are 500. Without the fans, I think it does make a difference. And as I talked about with Giannis before, they did win the game over the Mavericks, but I chose the Mavericks based off of the odds that the game would be closer than it was, and I called it. But when I look at the Bucs, I said Maverick. I did do Mavericks, Bucs right, but I also got Nets, Bucs correct as well. And in both games, what I was witnessing is it's not Giannis who can have the ball in his hands at the end of the game. Surprisingly, what I didn't expect, but I guess you can expect in terms of the fact that he got the big contract, it was Chris Middleton and then Brooke Lopez hitting the big shots. I I do unfortunately feel that Giannis is still a liability. I don't fault the Bucs for having to give him the big, extension, but even Giannis, if you listen to him, I think it was before he signed the contract, I believe, where he said, "Yeah, I don't mind taking a back seat to having a superstar because he knows he needs it." Chris Middleton, I wouldn't call him a superstar, but that may very well just be simply because in our minds we think of a superstar who's on commercials too. But as far as the NBA goes, he's averaging 22 points a game, 6.3 rebounds, 5.6 assists. Those are decent numbers. Those are decent, really good numbers. And this isn't to discredit him, even from Giannis's point, but I also think for Giannis, it just doesn't seem like he has the game right now that he can put the team on his shoulders in crunch time because of his, you don't know what you're going to get in the free throw with the free throws. And he's not Shaq, who Shaq had free throws issues too, but you can give him the ball in the post and he can overpower anybody. You know, Giannis needs a Euro step to get around people. He's got the height and the lift, but you'll see tonight. Lakers Bucks. That's going to be a good one. That's going to be a really good one. But of course, there are other games that are going on. And as I mentioned, we've got the Pelicans Jazz. The Jazz are favored at -7. I'll take that. This is the second game that they've played. You saw the first one. I think it will be more of the same. I don't think it will be different. I called that game. And I'll take that again. I'll buy that for $1. And Warriors hosting the Knicks. I'll take the Warriors at -4.5. Steph Curry still Steph Curry. I don't know what's up with Draymond Green per se, but I think it's more of a team effort, and Steph Curry is where I would say the team is right now. That's where we're at. You've got some, a good group around him. Eric Pascal, Brad Wanamaker, Kelly Oubre Jr., Andrew Wiggins. I mentioned Draymond Green. You got Kent Bazemore and James Wiseman. Seems to be Damian Lee. That's kind of like the rotation right now. But I'm taking the home teams in those two games. But of course, as I mentioned with the standings, when you look at both of those teams, the Jazz are 3-2 at home, and the Golden State Warriors are 5-3 at home. So I'm taking the home teams in those games. Was I right about the Nets? One last thing on the NBA. It's too early to say either way, but I do remember at the beginning of the season how after one game, everybody was so excited about how well Kevin Durant played with Kyrie Irving. And oh, it's so beautiful. This team is going to be great. And I think it was just too much hype. And I think if you saw anything last night, the defense, it needs some help. It needs a lot of help. Dare I say, I don't even want to say that maybe Kyrie's getting old. But I tell you what, Colin Sexton put a number on him. Wearing Kyrie's, by the way. Shout out to Michael Lee for that tidbit. Wasn't even thinking about that. But Colin Sexton was wearing Kyrie's. He was 16 of 29 for 42 points. Now, granted, Kevin Durant had a great game, 38 points. Kyrie Irving had 37. James Harden had 21. I mean, their starting five scored in double digits. But it was their defense that could not find a way to stop Colin Sexton. Now, of course, I don't like any point guard hitting 29 shots. I mean, I guess you could say he was hot, but I don't know. You got to get the team a little bit more involved, spread that ball around a little more evenly if you really, really want to win. I think this was a one-off. I would say it was a one-off for Cleveland. And they play again Friday. And yeah, I expect to see a different game. I expect to see a different game. That may even be my daily pick. Quite possibly. It was just shocking to see them lose the way that they did. It really was. But, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? All right. When I come back, we're going to talk about FIFA and their battle with UEFA in a new European soccer league. But first, thepropsnetwork.com is a place where bets begin. No, the Props Network isn't a sports book. It's where smart bettors and new players go before the sports book. Why? Because the Props Network has a few things that all bettors need: exclusive sign-up bonuses, reporting on weekly promos, free betting picks, and live odds comparison for every game. A visit to thepropsnetwork.com before placing a bet guarantees that you'll be wagering with the best available bonus and getting the biggest possible payout if your bets hit or your bet hits. Maybe you only want to do one. But the Props Network isn't just another bonus site. We've also got great content. Follow the Props Network on social media, YouTube, and Twitch for updates all week from me on Just for Sport and the rest of the Props Network team. Get ready to bet with the Props Network today. You must be 21 or over to bet online. Do you or someone you know have a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER today. So there's a story that came to my attention that for many times there have been documentaries, articles, stories on FIFA and being corrupt, and the money is not going to the players. There's a lot that I would say, you can take it all with a grain of salt. And I also know that everything, as I have heard about FIFA and the money that has been going as bribes, you've seen reports of that. You've seen reports of mishandling of money. And FIFA's being attacked. There is a new European Super League that is brewing to replace the Champions League. And I don't quite know why you want to replace the Champions League necessarily. But the statement from FIFA says, quote, in light of recent media speculation about the creation of a closed European Super League by some European clubs, FIFA and the six confederations, AFC, CAF, CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, CONMEBOL, OFC, and UEFA once again would like to reiterate and strongly emphasize that such a competition would not be recognized by either FIFA or the respective federation. Unquote. This, of course, means that any player at a club in this European Super League would be banned from international football. They couldn't play in the World Cup qualifiers, CONCACAF Gold Cup, UEFA Nations League, European Championships, Copa America. what is this trying to do? Is what I'm going to continue to read about and try to understand a little bit more. But in my mind, it starts with shifting the balance of FIFA, UEFA, that feel that in many ways the teams, the players, they want a bigger piece of the pie. The answer to all your questions is money. That's what it is. Could be just bidding. That's very much what it could be. Similar to how in the NBA there's a basketball related income and splitting ticket sales and things like that. But at the same time, I do wonder if does FIFA hold too much power? If you think about these individual tournaments or cups, they're just that. They're cups. They're tournaments. Even in EPL, you got like the FA Cup, right? And this is teams saying, well, we want to play in a different kind of a cup. I hope that in the end, I hope that they're able to work out some kind of an agreement. But from someone looking on the outside in, I would say in the end, my first inclination with this story was, how many leagues are we going to have? Real Madrid was one of the clubs that was looking to start this new Super League. And it can get confusing trying to figure out, English Premier League stops for a week so they can play in the Champions League. MLS stops and they play in the CONCACAF Gold Cup. It's a lot of different cups and championships and leagues that are all kind of intertwined. It's good for betting. Another Super League would be good for betting. But to threaten the players that they cannot play in the Olympics, boy, that seems tough. And my thing is they're going to play chicken. Okay, if you were Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo and all of the big players, if you had a union and you said, "Hey, okay, fine, we're just not going to play then you have something." So I'm interested to see how this plays out. Obviously, right now it's not necessarily affecting any betting, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And I'm done with too many leagues, too many different leagues. So it's hard for me to keep up. I'm going to end as I finish the show with a couple of tidbits that you can use for your betting pleasure, just betting pleasure now for Sunday's AFC and NFC Championship game. This is what you can get at plus 3,300. First TD, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, plus 4,000. Quarterback's tail of the tape is what it's called on DraftKings. You can get the over-under on passing yards at 275.5 at minus 124 for Aaron Rodgers, or the under at plus 100. I'm going to go with the under. First touchdown pass, I'm going to say I'm going to take Tom Brady at plus 4,000. Passing touchdowns, the over-under at 2.5 for Aaron Rodgers. I will take the over at plus 145. And for Tom Brady, I'll take the over at plus 165 as well. Now, who's going to have more touchdown passes? I'm going to say Aaron Rodgers will have 4. You can get that at minus 143. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be more of a ground game. See, that's what I do to myself when I'm trying to make a pick. I like go back and forth, and it bothers me so much. It does. Most passing yards, plus 100 for Aaron Rodgers, minus 124 for Tom Brady. I would take the over on Aaron. I said the under on passing yards for 279 for Aaron Rodgers. I'll take the under on passing yards for Tom Brady at 289. But who will have the most passing yards? I'll take Aaron Rodgers at plus 100 to have more passing yards. Although I guess you would say it's a chance it's going to be Tom Brady because his running game isn't anywhere near what the Green Bay Packers is. AFC Championship game, wide receiver tail of the tape, Stephon Diggs to score the first touchdown at plus 850, or you can get Tyreek Hill at plus 700. I think that Buffalo, if they are to win this game, they are going to have to go the way of Stephon Diggs. I like that at plus 850. Over 94.5 yards at minus 112, I'll take that for Stephon Diggs. And the over-under on Tyreek Hill at 77.5, I think, again, that depends on, and actually same for the first touchdown, depends on if it's Chad Henne and Patrick Mahomes. So I would almost hold off on a lot of this to find out if Mahomes is going to play or not. I would. I think I'm going to have to. But there's some cool boosts that you can get on DraftKings as well. I think you might enjoy. All right, that'll do it for the show today. I appreciate those of you that joined me. Thank you very much. As I didn't change my captions there. Totally forgot about that. But I appreciate you joining me. It is the 21st day of the 21st year. And trivia today. Boston Celtics point guard Bob Cousy is a one-man show as the East wins the NBA All-Star Game 98-93 in overtime at Madison Square Garden. The game is tied at 84 after George Mikan. Wow. George Mikan of the West sinks 2 free throws at the end of regulation. George Mikan, so that must have been the Minneapolis Lakers. 1954, 121-1954. Cousy, who has 10 points in the first 48 minutes, scores 10 more in overtime. Basketball's All-Star Game does not yet enjoy the popularity it will gain in years to come. Tonight's matchup is part of a doubleheader preceded by a game between two military teams from Fort Belvoir and the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, Aberdeen, isn't that in Maryland? And Fort Belvoir, I believe is that in Virginia? I don't know. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching or listening on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, I will have my daily picks. I'm going to have my picks for the AFC Championship game on Sunday, and my pick for the NFC Championship game will be Monday. My daily pick. That's what I'm doing. All right, everybody.